Correct.
So that's game.
Well, same
Yeah,
thing.
the first one, it should be, no. Okay, it should be good, right?
There you
Can
go.
you hear me?
Yep.
Am I good?
That's
Am I
good.
solid?
Much better.
It's all about the rock and roll, my brother. Much
So,
better.
first
Much
off,
better.
welcome to the Chris and Mike Show. I don't say that very often, so I feel privileged to be able
Welcome
to say
to the
that.
Chris and Mike Show. You don't
He's
say
Chris.
that very often.
I'm Mike. Yeah, I've been practicing.
Welcome to the behind the scenes. This is
Not
the behind
really.
the scenes Chris and Mike Show.
Hey, welcome everybody who's behind the scenes.
I'm talking over you. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
Behind the scenery, you can only see me, which is weird. We need to get you to do behind the scenes, and I can mesh them together.
Oh, you're.
And this
gonna
is
have
the
to-
wall for people that don't know. That's. Do I have to turn it up again?
No, you're fine.
What?
You're fine.
What do I got to do? Okay.
You're fine.
Okay. All right. Cool.
So
I turn that off.
we're
So I'm
going
not
to
distracted.
congratulate my brother on his 19 years of sobriety today. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do this podcast is I've been asked by anyone who knows my journey from beginning to end, has in one way or another basically pleaded with me to share my message for the same reason that you do, to let people know that if you're an addict, there's hope, that you can recover and live in whatever a normal life is to you, but you can be healthy and a productive member of society.
Live. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. And
live
yes.
in harmony. Whatever harmony is to you.
So this is my small way of giving back by sharing my story, but today is not about my story. It's about Chris's story. So we're going to celebrate his 19 years because that's a huge achievement. And I will give Nikki kudos. When I read what she wrote to you, it really hit me that it is much harder for a recovering alcoholic to survive that long in a world that celebrates everything with alcohol. I'm guilty of it myself. I've drank beer right here on the podcast because it's after work and I look forward to relaxing, and it is what it is. But she couldn't be any more correct that it is very hard for somebody to be surrounded by the thing that they have as an addiction. You know, I don't have piles of cocaine placed in front of me every day, or heroin or pills, or, nobody's throwing those at my doorstep, but every function that you go to, people celebrate that because they don't think about how hard it is for somebody who's in your shoes. So I think you handle it better than anyone I've ever known that's been in those shoes. So, the same way that I started with Jake, let's start from the beginning. How did you come to be Chris the alcoholic?
The short version of the long story is
tell the story.
Nikki started working another job while she was it's just I'm not gonna drag the story out for 2 hours because we'll lose people. But so Nikki was a bartender at the neighborhood Applebee's that was literally 2 blocks from our house. She's going to school full time. Then she got another job at a place called Anderson's Fifth Estate in Old Town Scottsdale because that was a true bar. Whereas Applebee's was your neighborhood, eating good in the neighborhood type thing. So she would make, 3 times as much money working at Anderson's. The catch was she's going to school full time, working at Applebee's, I think 4 nights a week, and then working at Anderson's 3 nights a week. So she's basically was 7 nights a week working by her own choice, mind you, because, there was reasons behind it that later kind of, that's why. But 7 nights a week working either at Applebee's or Anderson's Fifth Estate, and then going to school full time, and then we both had both our kids. So I kind of started getting into that woe is me bullshit to where, well, if it's Anderson's day, she leaves at 5:30, 6 o'clock. If it's Applebee's day, she leaves at 3:30, 4 o'clock. Applebee's day, because this is right when it switched to 2 a.m., she'd get home about 2:30. If it's Anderson, she's getting home, 4:35. So in the morning, so I ended up having that "what was me" bullshit going on because here I am being Mr. Mom, which I had no problem with. I've never looked at raising my kids as being a babysitter. I was their father. I'm still their father. It was taking care of them. It drives me nuts when people say, "Oh, I'm babysitting my son today." Fuck you. You're not babysitting your own son or your own daughter.
Correct.
You're taking care of your kids. Period.
Agreed.
So not that it was a massive world of depression, but it came to where it's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm married, she's never home, and now I'm taking care of the kids. So my drinking started kind of escalating where I would come home 3 o'clock from what I was doing in the real estate world. I'd come home, I'd open my outside freezer where I had a bottle of Jack in a paper bag hidden behind a 5 pound bag of ice. Indicator right there, because years ago I had too much rum and something went down, and it was not something that I had ever done before, nor would I'd ever do again. So I promised her right then and there I would never drink rum again. And I stayed true to that form. I never touched Captain Morgan's rum ever again. I replaced it with Jack Daniels. So I would hit a shot of Jack, go upstairs. I had a fridge underneath my desk. I actually still have the same desk to this day, ironically enough. I'd have 3 or 4 beers while I was upstairs, regardless, depending on which day it was. And I'd come down at 4, I'd come down at 5. I typically would make dinner if it was her early night sleeping, so then I'd feed the kids. And I had this little Corona cooler that held 6 beers and had a pouch for limes. So we had a really cool backyard. It was a 28,000 square foot lot. So the middle of the yard was a pool. The left side of the pool was the playground area. The right side was a park, and legit, it was a park. I had park benches and park lights, and I had a flagpole in the corner, and it was fantastic. We had weddings back there. We could put 100 people in the backyard with no problem. So the reason why I'm painting that picture is she'd go to work, I'd go outside with the kids, we'd play on the playground. I'd still be drinking my beer. If it was more in the summer, we'd play around the pool. I'd be still drinking my beer. If we're in the play on the park side, I'd still be drinking my beer. Do all the dinner things, get them ready for bed, do the stories, the brush the teeth, go to the bathroom type thing, tuck them in, go downstairs, continue drinking. So by 11 o'clock at night, and I remember it started at 3 with the first shot of Jack, I would have had, I don't know, at least a case of beer, a 12 pack, not a case, a 12 pack of beer, probably 3 or 4 shots of Jack by then. Until I'd reached that comfortably numb spot, where I wasn't hammered, but I was no longer sober, but I could reach that spot where, okay, then I could just fall asleep. I never would wake up hungover because I would always pound water while I was drinking. And I was always mindful of the fact that I have kids with me. I have to, be coherent and aware. Now, thankfully, nothing ever happened to them where I had to drive and take them to urgent care or something, because that wouldn't have worked.
Right.
I would run out every now and then, and I would throw them up in the car and my truck, and we'd drive up to the Applebee's parking lot because there was a Walgreens. Well, unbeknownst to me, the Walgreens employees knew Nikki, so they would tell her, "Oh, your husband was in, bought a 12 pack or an 18 pack and a bottle of Jack." So she knew what I was doing. She just didn't say anything because alcohol, Chris, couldn't be talked to. You can't rationalize with an alcoholic. She could tell complete strangers at Anderson's and regulars at Applebee's, "Hey, you've had too much. I'm cutting you off. No more for you," type thing. I'm calling you a cab, because Ubers didn't exist back then.
Right.
But with me, I wouldn't hear it. I don't have a problem. You know what you're talking about. I'm fine. Because I was from an alcohol standpoint, I was functional. I did everything I needed to do. I sold the houses that I was selling. All my paperwork was dialed in. I didn't ever mess that up. I paid my bills. There's nothing that was impacting my life in any way that I thought that said I was an alcoholic. So,
Right.
Fast forward to the first year the Patriots and the Eagles played in the Super Bowl, which is 2005. We went to Scottsdale, to a bar to watch the game. Every time I had gotten up to go to the restroom, I came back and there was another beer and another shot. So, you know, being an alcoholic, what do? You got a beer and a shot, you drink the beer and the shot. So as the night escalated, I got more and more inebriated, no position to drive. Um, but once you get to a point of inebriation where then your mind starts spinning and starts telling you stories and why is Nikki over there talking to that guy, why isn't she, and it was just a friend type thing, but it's still your brain starts spinning,
Oh
kind of
yeah.
gets out of control, you start making shit up in your head,
Oh yeah.
um,
Been there.
obviously.
Oh yeah.
So we started, kind of nitpicking. We were never, and for those of you who don't know, Nikki and I have been together. February 19th will be our 29th year anniversary, I believe, because we were married in 96 and we met in 95. Um, so she stood by me the entire time. Granted, you'll hear momentarily how close that was to not happening. So we had this major blow up by the time we were driving home. Yes, I drove home, kids. I would not recommend it. I don't know how I got from downtown, Old Town Scottsdale, to almost school and baseline without being pulled over and arrested. I was driving as fast as my what did I have, a 2004 Chevy Z71. It's a badass truck with a VTEC 4.8 engine in that thing. Man, that thing just would fly. Dark black, like as black as you can get. Limo tint windows, had all the windows down. This is probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 o'clock. Flying down the freeway. I remember what I vaguely remember about the drive home is I came to the off ramp on Alma School, and I had to stand on my brakes to stop because I was going so fast, and I had to have left tread because I was literally standing on it to stop because it was red light. Couldn't hear her if she was saying anything because I had the music as loud as I could possibly have it.
I've made those drives too.
Made it home. Yep, made it home. I was backing in. Oh, the other thing too, when I slammed on the brakes, I had these really cool mugs that I got. One's at the bar or something, Budweiser golf mugs, and I had hit the brakes so hard that they rolled up on the floor of the back seat. One of them shattered, so that kind of gives you an indication how fast I was going.
Oh yeah.
So pulled into the garage, went inside, and we I don't remember it obviously, but we had a fight, and we never fought. There was no verbal assault on one another. We came from broken homes. We came from dysfunctionality. We came from elements of abuse and things like that. So we were the polar opposite of how we were brought up. We just had the same mindset. Never really even really talked about how we're going to raise our kids, but it was just we did everything the way that we felt we should have been raised. So legit. I mean, the people, oh, you fucking fight. No, we didn't. I can count on one hand the amount of times we've had arguments, and two of them were from my drunken alcohol days. A couple of the other ones stem from putting the addition up. I will tell anybody that's married, do not build something together. Make sure you hire a reputable contractor who knows what the hell they're doing, so you don't get stuck in this world that we were stuck in, having to build this thing
Sound
ourselves,
advice.
and not hammers and nails, but right. But we had to take over the project because our contractor sucked ass. Ezekiel Gonzalez. If anybody ever comes across Ezekiel Gonzalez, do not use him because he sucks ass.
Fuck Ezekiel.
So big blow up fight. Fuck Ezekiel. Big blow up fight. Woke up the next day, which was Monday after the Super Bowl, and I knew something went down. So I knew something had to change. So I Googled AA meetings, and I found one in Northeast Mesa. I don't remember where now, but it was Red Mountain Ranch area, which is Wrecker and Brown, that area, McKellips. Went to that morning, and yeah, this isn't going to work. They were all, for lack of better terms, they were grandparents. It was 65, 70-year-olds, and I'm like, I just don't fit here,
Right.
So I came home. I stayed in the meeting, mind you. I came home. Knew I was going to find something else, so I Googled it again. I found one at Holy Spirit Catholic Church in Tempe, which, ironically enough, the Rodardi family, which I've talked about before, I used to go to church with them every now and then, and that was the church they went to. So it was kind of a cool little full circle thing to where I was familiar with the location. I was familiar with the church, and I was familiar with these little classrooms they had on the outskirts of the church itself. And I was like, oh, that's neat. So I found that it was going to be the Tuesday, which is the 9th of February. Super Bowl was on the 7th that year. The 8th was the day I went to the Red Mountain one. So once I found that, I'm like, okay, I got to get rid of everything. So in Arizona, we have recycle cans, blue ones, that you put, recyclables in. So I pulled that through the front door, kid you not, took it all the way down into the kitchen, which was a straight shot, and started to open the fridge and started pouring everything out in the sink, throw it in the blue can. Everything in the fridge I had that I was drinking or Nikki was drinking, unbeknownst to her, put it all down the drain, threw it in the blue can. Outside freezer, got all this stuff there. I had Sky vodka in there. I had citrus vodka. I loved citrus. Sky made a SKYY, I think. They made a really fantastic orange citrus vodka that if you had it in the freezer and then hit it, it's fantastic.
Yep, I remember that.
So I got all that in the house, dumped it all out. I poured one shot of Jack, and it was a hefty shot of Jack. It's not like a little shot glass. It was when you go to the bar and you say, hey, I want, Jack Daniels on rocks, and they give you that nice thick, this kind of, it's my coffee mug, but it's this kind of cup, is that circular around like half the size.
Right.
So I poured what I called a four finger shot, and I had a beer, which was Budweiser. Everything else was tossed. Everything else was down the drain. Everything else was in the blue garbage can, probably not three quarters, probably a quarter way up. And in the end of it, when I was really bad, I mean, I was hitting shit that was in our pantry that had been there for years, man. Like, I remember hitting peach schnapps because I didn't have anything to drink. I'm like, that's fucking nasty. But I still hit it again and again and again. Because when you build the tolerance, which anybody knows, with anything, when you build a tolerance, then you have to chase it. So it's no different from, if you're a drug addict and you're chasing, the high, like
nicotine
within our family. Right. Nicotine. The more you smoke is the more high you want.
I just blew out some nicotine.
Had issues in the family. Right. So I had a family member that was going down the heroin and meth thing. And what blew my mind in one of the many conversations was it wasn't so much chasing the high anymore. It was chasing the needles penetrating my flesh. Am I going to live or die this time? That's how extreme the addict can get.
Yes.
Because when you reach a level of, okay, how much higher can I get, or how much drunker can I get, or what's it going to take to get me drunk?
Yes.
Get me to that comfortable numb phase. And am I smart enough when I hit that comfortable numb spot? Do I turn it off and stop drinking? And that was the problem with me is when I was at home, I could reel it in because the kids were asleep and that kind of jazz. And I knew I had to be coherent. I knew something, if anything had to happen, I needed to make sure I was able to respond. But when we'd go out, I didn't have anything that would stop me. So I can remember times we'd go out, and as soon as I started getting warm, that's usually an indicator, like when your body starts heating up, that okay, you've had too much booze. Well, then I would just start chasing it because I wanted to get drunk, because I couldn't ever really get drunk at home, but I wanted to get drunk when we were out and about. Which most of the time we were out and about, I wasn't driving, so it wasn't an issue. But then I turned into the asshole, and I was like I said, I was functional. I wasn't verbally assaultive. I wasn't physically assaultive. I wasn't emotionally there. I can remember Christmases where I'd go around and I'd go into the room, turn the corner, and toss her a diamond earrings. Hey, Merry Christmas! Like, it's putting me out, but here you go. Ho ho ho.
That's a very
like, what's that? I'm like, it's your Christmas present.
That's a very valid point that I guess I never heard anybody put into words like that. That as an addict, you feel great, or you think you feel great, but you don't realize that you're an emotionless prick. That's a good way to describe it, because addicts do not really have any emotions. They're just trying to feel what they, as Kramer says, here's to feeling good all the time. That's really what you're going after is.
Right.
Like you
right?
said earlier, you're
Mhm.
going after that high. How much higher can I get? How much drunker can I get?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Is there a limit?
Yep.
Is the limit
Yep.
death?
Nope.
So yeah,
Right. And luckily with I never when I stopped, she didn't believe I was going to stop because why would she?
sure.
I told her I was going to AA. I told her I went to AA. She came home. She remember her coming home, and the blue can was still in the kitchen. She's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I just poured everything out. I had my last shot of Jack and my last beer, and the shot. I remember standing in my kitchen window, and the kitchen window overlooked. You could see the pool and the park side of the yard. So I hit half the shot and waited a minute and hit the rest of it. And then I nursed the beer. I didn't nurse it to where it got warm, but I nursed it to knowing in my mind that was it. That was my last shot of Jack, and it had no impact. Neither one of them had an impact on me at all. It was more like I was just drinking water, but it was the closure I needed. This was it. This was the last shot, and this is the last beer I'm ever going to have. So when she came home and saw the garbage can in the kitchen, she obviously asked what I was doing. I told her, and I don't remember the dialogue, but I know it wasn't, oh, yay, because it's like, yeah, whatever. It's kind of like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it type thing. And that was the big thing that started that day moving forward was sober Chris could be talked to. But sober Chris had to regain all the trust because
Correct.
even though I wasn't blatantly lying, you're still lying as an addict. You're when you have a bag of Jack Daniels hidden,
Fuck yeah, you're lying.
A bottle of Jack Daniels hidden in a bag in the freezer, right in the freezer behind a bag of ice. That's lying. Whether you want to admit that or not, that's you lying to yourself, lying to people around you that you don't have a problem. Because you do. If you got to hide it, you have a problem. I had, like I said, I had a fridge upstairs, and I had 9 beers. It would hold 9 beers.
Correct.
And I would drink those 9 beers, and I'd put them in a grocery bag, and I'd go stick them in the kitchen garbage bag and take that garbage bag out. So, nobody's knows. She's not going to know I drank 9 beers last night. Back to the Walgreens comment. Anytime I ran out, I'd go to Walgreens and buy more. And everybody that worked at Walgreens knew her because all the Applebee's employees would go over to not the front door of the Walgreens, but kind of outside of the Walgreens and have their smoke break because they didn't want the customers in Applebee's to know that they were, smoking cigarettes and shit, which is kind of funny if you think about it. But so they all knew, all the Walgreens people knew the Applebee's people and vice versa. So whenever she'd go over there, smoke, Chris came in again. Oh, what was he doing? Oh, he bought an 18-pack of Budweiser and a bottle of Jack, Really? Yeah. Jake was with, or not Jake. Yeah. Jake. Yeah. Jake was with him in the cart. Okay. Where was Skylar? I don't know. And then, she'd ask me later, where was Skylar last night? Oh, she was over at Nicole's, our neighbor's house, so I ran up to Walgreens. What'd you get there? Oh, just stuff. Knowing full well she knew what I was doing there, but I didn't know that because why would I? So the little lies you tell yourself, the little lies that you make up, I was insanely, in my eyes anyway, insanely overweight. I didn't see it at the time. I was like 230-ish, 240 maybe at the height of my drinking. I did a commercial with three agents in my office at the time that were new agents. We called it the real estate guys. And every now and then I come across the photo of it. And I'm like, fuck, man, I'm 178 pounds right now. And I'm doing a transformation challenge at Orange Theory to add muscle. So I'm 78 pounds, almost 79 pounds of me is muscle. I have 14% body fat, which is right. It's amazing according to them. And then the rest of it's water and bone density. So put 40, put 40, 50, 60, 70 pounds on me. That's how unhealthy I was. And then so when I turned 30, in the height of my drinking, I had what I call a heart attack, but it was an afibrillator with a rapid ventricular rate. So my heart rate would go from 60 beats to 200 beats with no warning at all. So reason I bring that up is that aided in the alcoholism because what's alcohol? It's a depressant.
It is.
So when my heart would start going, I would just go hit a shot of Jack. And if it was still, I'd hit another shot of Jack, and all of a sudden 2 or 3 shots of Jack, not thinking, well, let's wait till the first one gets into your bloodstream. No, just hit 2 or 3 right away to make sure it hits in the bloodstream and calms the heart rate down. So you take that with the fact that she was working 7 nights a week and going to school full time, and I'm all of a sudden playing Mr. Mom, which again, never ever regret that. But you get into this weird cycle of depression. Like, it's 7 nights a week. My wife's not home. That's a drag, because what do married people do? We don't have a TV in our room, kids. There's 2 reasons. There's 2 things you do in your bedrooms. It's sleeping and it's sex. Okay, well, it shouldn't flip you off. That's it. We've never had a TV in our room. So, it's one of those things where, well, this kind of sucks. And that was part of the depression. But then you take the amount of booze I was drinking was adding to depression because it's a depressant. I was heavy tobacco user as far as chewing tobacco. And then I was eating because I was emotionally eating, and I was over drinking, and then nicotine. So I had all those things going on for that last year of my drinking. Before the Super Bowl in February, we had Skylar's birthday party in September.
I forgot you used to
at
chew.
the birthday party. I was sober. I had a friend come over. Yeah, I had a friend come over middle of the birthday party, and he's like, "Hey, you got anything to drink?" Yes, I do. So all of a sudden, everybody's outside with the face painter and because remember, we had this big park-like backyard, so we'd have face painters and popcorn machines and snow cone machines and bouncy houses and shit. So everybody's outside. Chris and I go in the garage and, hit 2 or 3 times off whatever bottles were out there. And by the time it was taken inside, I was lit. I was fucking gone. I was the life of the party in my eyes.
Oh, yeah.
So when Skylar was being sung happy birthday to, and I just grabbed some for frosting off the cake and tassel her little head with it in front of all the parents.
Oh no.
Probably 30, 40 kids were there because we invited her entire class, and it's one of those things you just can't invite one kid and fucking everybody shows up.
Right.
And I think, don't quote me, but I think this was the time we were going to. No, I don't think we were at Queen of Peace yet. I don't think they were going to Catholic school yet. They may have been, but I don't think so. I could be wrong. She could have been knee deep in the Catholic school, which is even worse because, So that was later come to find out that was Nikki's final straw. Like that was it. That was September. She was graduating college in May. So that was it. One foot stepped out the door. So had the shit not went down February 7th of 2005, I never would have stopped drinking. May would have come. She would have graduated, and knowing who she is, she would have taken that other foot and walked out the door. And I would have not realized it then. It would have probably, I don't know where I would have been, because that's that big if, right? If we didn't have that blow up on the 7th, I didn't wake up on the 8th and like something's got to change, and then found the chip meeting. It's a chip meeting at the Holy Spirit, and went there that Tuesday the 9th. I have no idea. Like I can honestly kind of believe that had I not stopped, she would have left. She would have taken both kids. We would have got divorced. I would have been, paying out the ass, child support, alimony. She was a bartender, so she wasn't making money over the table, right? It was all under the table. So, real estate guy, I've always been successful in real estate. Back then I was probably doing, I don't know, 2-3 million a year, which price point wise now that equates to, 10, 15 million a year, because back then, 19 years ago, you'd spend $135,000 on a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, so I would do 20 of those, 30 of those.
I did. You sold me one.
Right. So yeah, we would have been divorced. I don't know where I would have gone from there, because, true to form, when your life falls apart and you're an addict, you just go deeper down that hole. So I would have probably continued my drinking and being completely unhealthy and overweight and out of shape. And, who knows what it would have taken to wake me up if the events of the 7th, 8th, and 9th of February in 2005 didn't happen.
Well,
So once
you're going to find
once
out
I got
because I lived that.
once I got to yeah. So once I got sober, we decided that it was best to separate for 3 months. I found a single level little townhouse patio home about a mile or so from my house. I called the realtor up, explained the situation. This shows you a little bit inside of the real estate community back then anyway. He called my broker to make sure I was on the up and up and I wasn't just feeding the bullshit, because I said, hey, I want to rent this for you for 3 months. I'm going to pay in advance. And it was nothing. It was like, in today's world, it was like $750, you know. But I paid the rent for 3 months. I canceled her cell phone. I canceled her insurance. She felt like I was always taking care of her. That was part of the issue. And once sober Chris came to light, then I could be talked to and rationalized with. So we came to the agreement. Okay, we're going to separate. I found you this place for 3 months. You're in charge of all your stuff. I'm not paying the bills for you anymore. I got my bills. You got your bills. And then we just kind of started working through it, you know, where we would go on dates. And I found this book, because then the other part of an addict, once an addict gets clean, they have to occupy their time.
Amen.
So I started working out like crazy. But then I started going through my house room by room. And as I was going through the house room by room, I was cleaning shit, you know, I mean cleaning shit. I'm like going on top of the hutch and taking stuff down. Well, I don't know, maybe 7-8 months prior to this, maybe a year prior to this, Nikki came home with a book called The 5 Love Languages. I wanted me to read it, and I just kind of, you know, was an asshole, an alcoholic dick, and basically like, fuck that. I don't need that, you know. Well, I found the book on top of the hutch, which is probably where I threw it when I was drinking, so she wouldn't bring it up again. I went outside that afternoon. It was a nice day. Went outside. We had a pool area. In the pool area, we had made a little chase lounge pit next to a screened-in gazebo, so you could kind of hang out in the gazebo and then go hang out in the lounges, get some sun, go back in the gazebo and watch the kids, and, you know, just made it a really cool, inviting environment. So I went out there and jumped in the pool, got out of the pool, grabbed the book, and I read it. The whole thing, I think, an hour and a half. And I'm like, holy shit. And we were going through marriage counseling at the time too, but the marriage counselor, we kept asking, what do we need to work on at home to help get through this? And they didn't have an answer. And I was like, we're paying you, and you don't have an answer to what we need to do at home to help get through this, you know, I don't know what you would call it, this difficult time in our life. So I read the book and realized, okay, if you've never read that book, what it does is it teaches you why you are the way you are. It teaches you whoever you're attached with, why they are the way they are. I'm insanely OCD when it comes to certain things, because the way I was brought up, every Friday I come home from school, I had to mow the lawn front and back and edge it, all that kind of jazz. Well, the mother would come home and she'd see the yard completely done and taken care of front and back. And then she'd say, oh, but you missed this entire spot. So instead of praising me for doing what I was supposed to do, she was nitpicking on the mohawk because I missed, you know, mowing. So that kind of translated into adult life, where I could come home, Nikki could have the entire house clean. I'd see a fork on the counter, be like, the fuck's that fork doing on the counter right there? Understand, I don't even recognize the entire house is clean.
Right.
I just see the fork on the counter. Okay.
Bad.
And that's but that's the book taught me. Right. But the book taught me that's why that's who I am. And then it taught me my love languages. It taught me her love languages. So once I had that epiphany, then I started using that to my advantage. So as we were working to get things back together, because again, I was sober, and she had to get used to my being able to be talked to and rationalized with. It enabled her to see that I wasn't blowing this off this time, that I actually was pursuing this. And the whole reason why, number one, it was as fucked up as it sounds, everybody's sobriety journey is different. So when I sat at the second meeting, which was the Holy Spirit meeting, and they did the thing, I didn't talk the first one. I just listened. And the guy's like, "Who's got 24 hours sober?" And I kind of looked at my watch. I'm like, "Huh, I got 24 hours sober." So I was like, "I do. Why?" And so he gave me a chip. He gave me a 24-hour chip. And I was like, "What's this?" He's like, "Well, you get a chip for being sober for 24 hours." I'm like, "No shit." So then after the meeting, I went up to him. I said, "So what happens after this one?" He's like, "Well, you get a 30-day." I said, "Oh, okay. So I give you this one back on my 30 days?" He's like, "Well, if you want to, or you can keep it." I was like, "Okay." So I get a 24-hour chip. He's like, "Yep." Then I get a 30-day chip. Yep. And then I get what? He's, "Well, then you get a 60-day and a 90-day and then a 6-month and then a year. And then every year after you get a year." I said, "Okay. So the only way I get these chips is if I stop drinking." He's like, "Yeah." I said, "So if I stop drinking and I'm clear 30 days and I'm clean 30 days, when I come home, or when I don't come home, when I come back on my 30th day, then I get a 30-day chip." He's like, "Right." I'm like, "Shit." So now all of a sudden I had a goal. So part of who I am very goal driven, goal oriented, things like that, target driven. I see something I gotta, so I was like, well, if I can get a 30-day chip and a 60 and a 90, that's the 3 months that we're separated. So she's gonna see that I have these 24, 30-day, 60-day, 90-day chip. So she's gotta like buy into the fact, okay, he's legit, he's stopping, he's making these strides, he's working out, he's not drinking. I didn't do all the steps. I didn't read the big blue book and that kind of thing, because that wasn't who I was. I'm not that guy that needs God to tell me how, or churches, we've talked about this, religion and stuff. So AA is kind of a religion itself, where there's people in the group that I went to, and I went twice a week for the first 6 months. Then I tailored that down to like once a week. And then by the time I hit 2 years, I kind of go when I need it, Once COVID hit, I stopped going completely, and I just found a place online that sends me my AA chips. But it's cool that I can always still just go there, and be accepted. So once I realized I got the chips, that was my main thing. I'm going to get these chips. I'm going to show her that I'm doing this, and I'm in a program per se. And I've said this to you before, that I've had people in that group that, they would start if. AA meetings are portrayed a lot on movies and shit. The closest thing you get to an AA meeting, for those who've never been to one, there's a new show on Netflix called Louder Milk. Okay, so Louder Milk, the show on Netflix, is the closest you're going to get to an AA meeting. It's in my case, we were in a room with tables, but you're sitting around the table. You don't have to talk. It's very simply, "Hey, I'm Chris. I'm an alcoholic. I'm gonna pass." So then if you're sitting next to Mike, you'd say, "Hey, I'm Mike. I'm an alcoholic." And then you go on your discussion of whatever you want to talk about.
I'd be like, I got all kinds of shit to say.
Nobody stands up on a podium. Nobody stands up in a right. Nobody stands on a podium. Nobody addresses the room. There's like Michael Keaton, great fucking movie, Clean and Sober. Okay, well the way they spun AA was, you're on a podium on a stage in front of thousands of people. It's it's intimate, it's small, it's what happens in AA stays in AA. It's kind of, you don't bring your business in, you don't bring your life in, aside from your addiction and what circles around that. It's not a networking marketing event. I don't go in there, "Hi, I'm Kristen, I'm a real estate guy, let's get you clean and sober so you can buy a house." There was a fucking lady that did that one time, and I was so pissed because she started in the middle of her thing, she was talking about real estate. I'm like, you can't fucking do that. You cannot do that. Like, that's just fucking ridiculous.
And because everybody's at a different point in their journey, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You might fuck somebody
Everybody's
up that's their first time there, and they're very fragile, and you start talking about shit that spins them out of control.
Right. Yeah. Everything in life has a trigger. Alcoholics have a trigger. Drug addicts have a trigger. It doesn't matter what you're addicted to. Sex addicts have a trigger. Food addicts, alcohol, drugs, codependency. There's something that would trigger you with everything. And with alcohol, I get triggered all the fucking time, man. There's so many things that especially the last few years, and dealing with building an addiction and stuff, and just 2000 when COVID hit, it was the first year of COVID, 2019, when it hit March to, December-ish of 2019, I was cool. But once 2020 kind of started, it's like I started going down a dark path because, and everything around me was not how it was. Like, I'm social. I need people around me. I need to feed off energy and stuff. And so I was taking little man, I'd get him in the morning. We'd do our thing. I'd take him, drop him off at daycare. I'd come home to an empty house and do my work. And it just wasn't the same. So I started getting kind of slipping down this little dark tunnel. And the urge to drink started more and more and more, like more than it had ever done before. Like, I left when I got past my first year, I was kind of like, well, that was easy, man. Once I had that target and the support and things and this and that, and I'm getting my life back together, and Nikki's back in now with the kids, and we're working on stuff. It took her and I about a year, maybe a year and a half, 2 years to really get back into who we were. Because I had done damage and she had done damage. I mean, it takes two to tango.
Oh yeah.
So it takes a while to heal, right? And we were both, because of the book, The 5 Love Languages, and that really helped save our marriage, because then we started paying attention to those things, and that helped us heal and recover as a couple. And like I said, it's 96 and that's 2024. So 29 years together, is that what that is?
Yep.
I don't fucking know.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
And then we've yeah.
You said something very important to me that I guess, once again, I never thought about, because I was pissed that we stayed open during COVID in the beginning, when everybody bought into the bullshit, how we were all going to die. But in hindsight, I can see where that was a really rough time for you, because I got to go to work every day. So I got to see people. I traveled to see Carrie during that time, which was probably ill-advised, but nobody was sick. I had the time off. I went, I was around people the whole time, and that probably saved me, because if I was stuck in my house by myself, I would have gone crazy.
Yeah, my office went from 45, 50 people on any given day to 4. Myself, Mark, Dean, and Trina, reception. It just within a day, just poof. And it didn't work. It didn't. So then I ended up leaving that brokerage, just because there wasn't enough of daily interaction for me to do anything that helped me. So where I'm at now is a really cool little spot. I did a lot of deals with the managing broker, Nick, and a lot of high-rise condos over the years. And it's every Wednesday night, except for these last couple of weeks, we have fireside chat, which we all get together and kind of bullshit about whatever is relevant at the time. We bounce ideas off each other. I do office hours a couple of days a week, where I'm engaged with people and, marketing and stuff like that. So that needed to happen, because I wouldn't have continued being sober, I don't think, as weird as that sounds. Because like I said, once I got through the first year, I'm like, that was easy. And then all of a sudden, probably the middle of the second to third year, I started getting those cravings again. And I had this phrase, and again, there was people at AA that would say, well, by the power of, of God, I'm sober, X amount of years, or by the grace of God, I'm sober X amount of days, or God didn't make me drink, so God wasn't going to make me stop.
We have this agree thing on that
called free will.
Yes.
And free will. I put the drink in my hand. Yep. I continued putting the drink in my hand, and then I went and put the Jack in my hand. Then I put more Jack in my hand. Then I put peach schnapps in my hand, and then so I'm accountable for everything I did through those years. Every single aspect of it, my fault. I don't point fingers. I don't play the blame game, because that's a vicious cycle that goes nowhere.
Correct. Agreed.
So, right. So when I was done, when I came to the terms that I'm done, I was legit. It was it, man. There was no second guessing. It's like I woke up the 8th. There's something's wrong. Something's
Is
got
this
to
the
give.
first time you tried to get
The
sober?
9th was my first. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's a very important
When I had
question for
my
the
thing
people
when
that
I
are
was
listening.
Yeah. Yeah. When I had my AFib problem when I was 30, I was still drinking, and so I didn't drink those 3 or 4 days in the hospital. But as soon as I, got back home, you know, the doctor would walk in that room. The first time he walked in that room, he's kind of looked at me. I wasn't in bed. I was in the bathroom or something. So he's looking around. I came out of the bathroom and he couldn't see. I don't think I was wearing a gown because I was just that ass. I'm not fucking wearing a gown. There's nothing wrong with me. A t-shirt and sweats, and he came out of the thing, and he's like, "Are you Christopher?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, looks at the sheet. He's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, "How old are you?" Like 30. And it blew his mind that somebody as young as me looked as bad as I did. That the night before I walked in legit, I drove myself to urgent care, or not urgent care, to the hospital. I walked in the Desert Sam. Nobody was there. It was Memorial Day weekend, which is the craziest thing. Nobody was there. It was a ghost town. I walked up to the front, to the desk. Lady looked up. I couldn't even get the words out of my mouth, and her face went flush white. I was on a gurney back into the back of the ER. One of the top cardiologists of the state is Dr. Del Giorno, like the pizza, was on site. He just wrapped up, was leaving. He was there, so he pumps me full. It was the craziest thing, dude. I mean, you talk about fucking 90 seconds of from here to there, signing your life away. We're going to give you this drug called cardizem. It's going to get you back to normal sinus arrhythmia. Had an adverse reaction to it. I coded. But the next day when he comes, I'm telling him when he puts it in, I'm like, I'm on fire. He's like, no, you're not. I'm like, I'm on fire, man. This is burning me alive. I'm itching like crazy. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. And then all of a sudden I'm hearing, hey Chris, can you hear us? Hey Chris, can you hear us? That's another whole episode. That did fall in line with vision, by the way, because I was 30.
And crazy enough, we had the same kind of experience. So remind me of that later. Yeah. Keep going, but remind me of that
that's
later.
Just another whole episode, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I get out of the hospital. I go back to my normal everyday life, drinking. God forbid that you change your lifestyle at all when you have what I equated to as a heart attack.
Hell no. Party on.
But you're an alcoholic, so there's nothing wrong. And so that didn't wake me up. And the reason I told that story is that didn't even wake me up. That didn't even get me out of the nonsense, man. It wasn't until the only thing in my life that mattered, which was Nikki and the kids, because have no family here whatsoever. Don't really have any family left anywhere aside from my wife and my kids, because my aunt passed away, which took over the role of my mother, because my mother's a psycho bitch that I don't know why she's still alive. Nikki gets pissed when I say that stuff, but it's like, come on, really? My aunt died, who's assaulting the earth, and that she's still breathing air. It doesn't make any sense. That was probably a source of my drinking, the way I was brought up. So there's all kinds of things I can point to why I became an alcoholic, right? But like we talked about, I don't play the blame game. I don't point fingers. I did it. I allowed it. And here we are 19 years later, which in itself is remarkable, and I get that. But at the same time, there's anybody who's an addict, which you can attest to this. There's a constant internal struggle. It doesn't
Correct.
matter if it's a small struggle or a big struggle. There's always a struggle. There's not a single day that goes by that I don't struggle with some aspect of being an alcoholic. And
Correct.
again, it can be the most simple little thing, or it can be something monumental. The reason why I did where I'm at today, this is the wall. And this is just like, I wouldn't have this wall of life if I continued drinking. I mean, there's so many. I can look at every single picture and pull that memory up. And that's the kind
awesome.
of shit I wouldn't have had. Like I would have missed all of that had I never stopped drinking. I wouldn't be, as healthy as I am now. I'm 53 years old, and people are blown away when I tell them I'm 53 years old. I just did a 6-minute 28-second mile, which my best is I did 2 miles back to back in January of 23 with a broken foot. Didn't know it was broken at 5:55. So then I was in a boot for 6 months. And I still ran a 6:28 mile. That's fucking insane to me. Like
That's
I
awesome.
was happy when I did that. Today we did a thing. Thank you. Today we did a thing in Orange Theory where it's called Capture the Flag. So what you do, you go in the weight room and you have a medicine ball. You do 12 shoulder presses and 12 lunges, and then 12 crunches with straight crunches. So your legs are out and you're crunching. You get the medicine ball in your hand. You're going over. You finish that. You go to your treadmill. You run 0.2 miles, and then you jump on the rower, and then your partner does the same thing. And then when they're done, you switch spots. It's 23 minutes long. We rode 5,602 meters in 23 minutes with all the other stuff involved, which that beat our class. The best of the day that I saw so far was 6,200 meters, but that was with 2 coaches. So, coaches better fucking be better than anybody else.
Right.
But that shit I could never have done when I was drinking. Like, it just, so there's something to be said for being sober. There's something to be said for replacing your addiction, which I have. I replaced drinking with working out, and I replaced everything with running. When I couldn't run for the 6 months being in the boot, that was hard. And that was 2023. I didn't run in 2023 from January 26th was the last time I ran the rock and roll half. And I never put my foot on the ground again from a running standpoint until October 14th. So from January 26th to October 14th, I struggled. I mean, it was a fucking struggle. Anybody that knew me didn't really know what I was dealing with because I couldn't run. And for me to be able to clear my mind and just to function, running took that over. Runner. And that it's just, especially since music hasn't been a part of my life and acting and all that kind of stuff that I was doing.
No, I get it, dude. You got to have something.
Yeah. You have to. And if anybody's in recovery or looking towards getting into recovery and to stop, the chaos in their lives, you have to have something that's going to replace it that's healthy.
Correct.
It has to be
the reason that
habit.
The reason my guitars are in the background of every episode is because that's my healthy addiction. That's what keeps me sane. If I didn't have the ability to pick those up and play, it would hurt. So I get it, man. When something you have is taken away from you that you rely on for your mental health, it's rough.
It is. Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing I can impart on anybody is you have to want to stop. You can't stop for somebody else, right? I initially stopped because I knew something was wrong. I woke up that day and like something has to change. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't put my finger on it. I just knew something had to change.
Correct.
And then the first AA meeting kind of opened the door to understanding, but then the second one really kind of, filled my soul. It's like, oh, this is what it's about. And the first one was kind of cool. There's a guy in there from Vietnam. Fucker used to drink gasoline. Like they would legit drink gasoline. Now imagine the shit you have to go through and see.
He wins.
In Vietnam, right? They were like legit drinking gasoline. He was the one that every time he talked by the grace of God, I'm clean and sober for X amount of years. But they would drink gasoline. That's
fucking crazy.
And it was a cool little, it was a stereotype of an alcoholic from every phase. You had the grandmother, this frail old lady that you look at her, oh, she's a nice little grandmother, but she's a fucking wicked alcoholic, man. Then you had, I don't remember all their names now, but you had the guy that was a Vietnam vet, and you could just tell weathered, man, just life beat him down. Then you have the guy that was wearing the clothes too big for him because when he was drinking, he was bloated. And so he still has the same clothes. And you could tell he was a businessman and disheveled and, trying to keep his life together. there was only like 6 of us there at that meeting, and it was all these pieces to the puzzle. I was the youngest one there.
Different
I
walks of
deferred
life.
the first 2 or 3 meetings because I didn't. Oh, big time. Deferred the first 2 or 3 meetings. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to share, because I wasn't sure if I truly was an alcoholic or if this was just me saying, okay, something needs to stop, so I'm going to try this. Because
Right.
even when you come to the terms that you're going to stop, you still have that thing in the back of your head. Oh, this will be fine. Like, and I had a lot of people when I hit that 3-month, kind of give me shit. Oh, you're fucking fine. Let's go have a beer. Well, no, you don't understand. Like, I stopped. Well, you're fine now. It's been 3 months. Well, yeah, but no, I need to stay sober. I'm trying to keep my family together. Oh, you're just a fucking weekend warrior. Just stop drinking Monday through Friday. You can have beers on Friday and Saturday. You'll be fine.
Yeah,
Like,
fuck them
constant
people.
people that I knew, and that's why they're no longer in my life. Like, it's the other thing that people don't get, and you got to be prepared for it mentally and psychologically. You're going to lose all your friends.
Oh yeah.
All your friends that you have when you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, any type of addict, circle chaos that you're in, you're going to lose all those friends.
Yep.
It's that because you can't hang out with somebody who drinks 24 hours a day. You just can't, because what
You
are you going to do eventually? You're going to give into that peer pressure.
you can't be around people who are
Go
doing
ahead. You were
whatever.
going to say something?
Yeah, whatever addiction you're succumbing to. It is unfortunate, but I think that's an important statement that can't be stressed enough. Is you are going to lose all your friends. You have to reinvent your life. Like, you and I
Yeah,
will admit, one
you
thing
do.
that we have 100% in common is we completely reinvented ourselves. I moved back to where I grew up, and
Agreed.
I became a worker bee. Like, I go to work every day, and I bought a house,
Right.
and I became whatever people call a productive member of society. I'm playing the game.
Right.
So
Sorry.
so
Yep.
but the point is, I had
Yep.
to do that to save my life, and I'm making fun of it, but I couldn't be any more serious. That's what saved my life, was just
Mm-hmm.
focusing on something different. That's why I didn't do music for that time. I found music again for me personally, not for anyone else. You know, it had to mean something to me again,
Right.
because it became too much of our job at one point. It was something to keep everyone going and
Oh
not
yeah.
just yourself. So I found it again
Mm-hmm.
for me, and it became my meditation and what kept me sane. But the most important thing is what you just said.
Right.
I had to excommunicate everyone that was involved in that portion of my life. Not because they were bad people, but because it led to bad things. So it's like, start over with just the two people who knew me best, which were my parents.
Right. And see, I didn't have that to fall back on as far as family is concerned, because legit, it was us. That was it. There was nothing else. Um, there's nothing else that I could do. It's just more of an internal thing. Like, I had to go do this, and that was it. I had to do it for myself, and then from myself part of it, then um, I went down the path of, okay, I get the chip, and then I get Nikki to understand that I'm sober. Chris is legit. Sober Chris is here to stay. Jake wasn't old enough to really remember the time, my drinking time. Skylar was. She was old enough to remember stuff. She pulls it out every now and then. But then once they were back, then it's like, okay, now the focus went back on, I need to keep doing this for me again, because you can't do it for the wrong reason, because it's going to backfire.
Correct.
You have to have the why. The why always starts with you. If you're an addict, you have to figure out the why. Why do you need to stop? What's going to make you stop? How do you stop? It's because if you don't stop, you're going to just continue going down the path, and it's going to be destructive. And I know people from my graduating class. We're really tight. We're a really tight group from high school, which is kind of cool. So many people have died from heroin and drinking, and it's mind boggling. And we all knew them. Like, we were all really tight in high school, and you look at that now, like some of them I'm thinking about. I'm not going to drop their names, but it's sad to think that somebody who had such a zest for life got bitten by the addiction drug, and they couldn't get out of it. So I consider myself very lucky. I know you consider yourself very lucky to
100%.
get away from that darkness and that demon. It's a demon, everybody has a demon in them. It's just a matter of how that demon comes out.
I don't know if you ever struggle with this, but for a long time, and it doesn't crop up too much anymore, but I actually felt guilty for being the one that survived. It's like, why did I get to live and those people died? Because like you said, we lost some good friends, and those people meant something to me. It's like, why am I still here? I did enough drugs to kill a herd of elephants, I did. I mean, that's
the short answer.
I know the people that
the answer.
I know the people that love me don't like to hear that, but
go ahead.
It's a true statement, You always make the joke, you're surprised Budweiser's still in business. It's like, we weren't just weekend warriors. We were like, how much can you do? How much fun can I have, and how good can I feel? To give an example of where we were at in our lives, we ordered kamikazes in the band by the pitcher. We didn't order them by the shot. We ordered pitchers of them. It's like, give us 3 pitchers of kamikaze and some beers.
Well, before every Nemesis show, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I would do a shot of Jaeger.
And I do, because Scott joined you all the time.
Just chug a beer. Yeah. So, but but see, that's the thing. I knew my limit when I was performing. That's a weird thing about my alcoholism. Like, I knew what lines I couldn't cross. So I never ever went on stage inebriated. Never, not once. I went on stage once stone sober and ended up being stoned. That was an accident.
My fault.
But aside from that, I never performed under the influence of anything, because that was being on stage that was it, man. That was, whether it was acting, whether it was singing in a band, that was it. That was the, like, I don't get a runner's high. Nikki gets runner's highs all the time. I don't get emotional when I run a sub 6 minute mile, because that was my target. Like, I knew I was going to hit that because Jake ran a 6 minute mile. I'm like, fuck you, man. I'm coming after you. I was like, oh, whatever, Dad. And I chipped away at it. It took me 2 years, but I chipped away from a 740 to a 555 because I told him I was going to catch him. So that's what I did. But I didn't get that runner's high. My high was being in front of people, and it always will be, just being in front of somebody and being that showman, and being, whether it was acting a little character role with 5 lines or fucking singing rock and roll for 90 minutes. It didn't matter to me. It's just, that's where I've always felt the most at home and at peace, and nothing. I don't care what my day was like. I don't care what kind of shit I was dealing with. It's just, as soon as I stepped up to do the mic check, the sound check, like, it was game on. That was it. That was where I was at that point in time.
Peace is a good word.
No matter what, like, big time. It just, that was it. It was. And if you haven't ever experienced that, it's hard to understand what we're talking about. But that goes back to, if you're an addict and you want to stop and you want to get recovery, you need to find something. You need to find something that's going to be the healthy replacement. And so I never abused being on stage because I valued it too much. You don't go abusing your life on purpose. I didn't neglect Nikki emotionally on purpose. I didn't wake up one day and say, I want to fucking be an asshole today.
Right.
That's the alcohol and that's the drugs. You don't realize it. So when you come to the term, which God bless you if you come to the point in life, if I'm going to stop, I'm going to stop. Hey, I listened to Chris and Mike's show. This is fantastic. I'm going to make the choice to stop drinking. Whenever I post my annual stuff, I get people to reach out to me. I had 3 or 4 emails, probably about 6 or 7 messengers, asking things, and I love
awesome.
that because it shows that people realize that I can be approached and I'm obtainable, and I'm not this fucking, standoffish person that, I don't talk about this shit as a, oh, look at me. I talk about this shit because it'll help somebody else. And
Correct.
if nothing else, we help one person come to the terms that they need to stop drinking or stop, shooting heroin, snorting meth, and we've done our job. I can be happy if one person's, hey man, I listened to your show and that was great. Like when I post all the stuff about heroin and shit, I'd have random people come up and shake my hand. Hey man, because of your video, you forced me to talk to my son about drugs. That just stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah, you got a
Chills.
lot of response on
Chills
that,
run up my body. Yeah,
which was awesome.
So many people out of the woodwork, and they can't walk into a store and somebody would shout at us as we walked in because they recognized us from the journey. It's mind-boggling. So, if you need help, get it. Reach out to somebody that you trust. But you got to do it for you. You got to find a healthy habit to replace it. And that can be anything, man. But make sure it's healthy. It can be reading. It could be you're running. It could be working out. It could be going for walks, learning to play guitar, learning to play piano. There's so many things you could do that's healthy, that replaces it. But you can't stop without replacing it with something. Too many people, I think, fail in the recovery realm because they're so focused on getting clean, right? And then they get clean, like, yes, I'm clean. I did it. I got
now
30 days, especially the ones that go on, right. Especially ones that go into lockdown and they have to go to detox for 10 days and then they go into 30-day lockdowns and then they have all the support there 24/7. There's somebody to talk to, somebody to bounce ideas off. When you're struggling, you have somebody there. There's always somebody there to talk to. And then you get out of that environment and you're like, well, fuck. Now what?
Yep.
Because you can't talk to your friends because your friends are the reason you're there to begin with. Right. So have some pieces in place. Don't get this. Don't take this wrong. I don't get up tomorrow and say, oh, I want to be sober. It's great. Do that, but have a game plan. Know how you're going to do it. Know what steps you got to take. Know where you got to go. Get your support groups lined up. There's so many support groups now for everything. It's a little overwhelming, I think. There's NA and AA and Al-Anon and anything under the sun, right? So there's no reason you can't find support groups for like-minded people going through the same stuff you are. Even if you don't want to go in person, you can Zoom that shit, man. Like there's so much stuff online that you can go. There's a thing called Meetup. I don't know if it's probably in Illinois too. It's a thing called Meetup. Google it, meetup.com. You can join groups. You can join anything. They kind of interview you and ask you what your likes are. And then they kind of tailor events around your answers. So, there's all kinds of support groups out there for people. So, just have a plan in place, get a healthy habit, and, tunnel vision that shit. If you're ready to stop, man. That'd be the greatest thing you ever do. There's nothing better than waking up February 10th of 2005. The weight was off my shoulders.
Yep.
Because I had gone to 2 AA meetings. There was no booze in my house at all. And I knew I had to work to get to my 30-day chip. Woke up with a clear mind, and every day after the 9th, I kept waking up better and better, more and more clear. My mind was more and more open to things and open to discussions. And I called it before sober Chris. Nikki could talk to sober Chris. I would listen. I could be rationalized with. I wasn't just fly off the handle. I wasn't, oh, fuck it, I'm not going to read that book. That's stupid, It's amazing that your life is so much more amazing when you're clean.
Exactly. I think that's a very important point to distinguish between what I like to call your bad drugs and your good drugs. A lot of people don't think of alcohol as a drug because you can buy it at every corner
Oh, yeah, right.
supermarket, liquor store, but they also sell it at the drug store, people. Alcohol is a drug. It's one of the most dangerous drugs on the
Right.
planet because if you get to the point where you're so far gone, like my poor parents' neighbor was, you will die from drinking. It will kill you. It will kill you if you continue to do it, and you will get to a point where you will die if you stop doing it without help. So it's very important for people to know where they're at in their addiction, because if you're a heroin addict or an alcoholic or a pill addict, you have to be super careful that you cannot just quit if you are so far gone that you are dependent on it to survive, which is where I was at. You have to be very careful about how you taper yourself off, and you better either find somebody that knows what they're doing or get professional medical help, because these are drugs that will kill you if you're so far gone and you just stop cold turkey. So I don't talk about this lightly. I've been kind of getting a little bit of blowback for uh, kind of praising marijuana. Marijuana's never killed anyone, ever. So
Nope.
let's relax on the, oh, you talk about being sober, Mike, but I hear you talk about smoking the reefer. It's like, well, yeah, because I don't have a problem with that. I was never addicted. Nobody's addicted to marijuana. The same people that are addicted to marijuana would be addicted to toothpaste. They're the people you see on My Strange Addiction, that they eat glass and shit like that,
Right. Oh
It,
my God, is that a crazy show, man? That is
if
such a crazy show.
tomorrow you told me that I could not smoke pot again, which happened in my life, my employer told me at one time, if you do that and we random drug test you, we will fire you. So I quit doing it for 10 years.
Yep.
It's no big deal. I'd be like, that's a bummer,
Yep.
So I just want to clear that up.
And we've talked about before that. Yeah, no, and we've talked about it before. Like I had ACDF surgery in 2014. You probably can't see the scar. There you can, right there.
Oh yeah,
that little white-ish. It's weird how sometimes it shows up and sometimes it doesn't. So what that equates to, if you don't understand, is Peyton Manning surgery. So my third and fourth vertebrae were fused at birth as a child. I was 2.5 months early, so I was pumped full of steroids and growth hormones and shit. So in doing so, it fused those. Well, what happened over time, kind of like, from your accident, it starts degenerating. And because it turned into such a knot like this on my neck, then it was the spinal fluid was going around third and fourth and then missing the 4 to 5 spot. So there wasn't enough spinal fluid going between the fourth and fifth vertebrae. So then I started going like this. My bones were just scraping against each other.
That's what mine do right now.
Hello, alcoholic. So guess what I couldn't take?
Painkillers.
Advil, Tylenol. That's it. Nothing but Advil and Tylenol. So you can only take so much Advil and you can only take so much Tylenol.
Correct.
So the last 6 months prior to surgery, my pain level was 15 out of 10 on a daily basis. I'd get up. It'd take me an hour to get out of bed. No lie. We lived in a 2-story house, which is why we don't live in a 2-story house anymore. Once I got downstairs, I had a chair, just the way the room was set up. That was, you'd come down the stairs, you turn right, there's a chair. I'd come downstairs, sit in that chair until I could get out of that chair without being in pain. And I'd try to go on with my day as best I could. So a friend of mine started talking one day, and he was, like, lack of a better term, he's a pothead. And he started telling about, back then medical marijuana was kind of a thing in 2013-ish. It kind of came to that light, right, in the valley. So I was like, well, shit, dude, I'll try anything. Just, this fucking sucks. So he connected me with, I got this little one-hitter thing, and it was called Purple Kush, and 9 o'clock at night, once the kids are in bed, and I'd take my little one-hitter and fill that thing up, go on the back patio, and I would take a hit. And I'm telling you, head to toe, once that got into my system, man, it just the pain just.
Thank you. I'm trying to convince a few people in my life that it will help them.
God's honest truth. It was the only way I survived those last 6 months until surgery, because I was that close, because I knew it would take the pain away. I knew every day I'd wake up and it was a struggle because I was sober, but I knew, I'm like, the Jack will make this go away. Just doing 2 or 3 shots, this pain won't be here. It'll get me numb. But I knew how far I had come. I'm like, I can't do that. So when he and I were just having a random fuck conversation, he's like, oh, you should try this. I'm like, I don't smoke pot, dude. Trust me. If you're in pain, this will help you. I'm like, yes. And I hit it. I hit it from the kids. I didn't like smoke in front of them.
Well, let me interrupt you for
doing it.
1 second.
Legit. Yeah.
This is an addict and another addict telling you that marijuana is not what you think it is. It is you, only you feel better. So it makes food taste better. It makes sex better. It makes your whole well-being better. You're the same person. So I'm not going to advocate that you should go out and drive a motor vehicle or anything. You know, I'm not saying that it's 100% safe for something like that, but it's not what you think it is if you've never done it. You should not talk about it if you've never done it. You don't understand. It's not what you think it is.
Agreed. Yep.
So I appreciate someone like yourself who is a recovering addict from something else using marijuana the way that it was intended as a tool to bridge the gap between pain, between loneliness, between lack of creativity, between wanting to understand life. It's a tool. It's not a drug. It got lumped in with all the other bad shit in the world and vilified because one person wanted to make some money, and we'll talk about that later. But really, it got vilified for no good reason. It's one of the most valuable tools on the planet. We should be using it, if anything else, if for nothing else, we should be cultivating it for paper and all kinds of shit that could be useful. But no, it's got to be a Schedule I drug because apparently it has no medicinal purposes, only except the ones that Chris and I just described to you. It will take your pain away. It will make you feel better. And it'll make everything around you in your life more interesting. That's all it does.
Right. And
sorry.
And I don't know if people will believe this statement or not, but this we didn't plan on that coming into this conversation about my sobriety. It just organically got there. And I will tell you this: as soon as surgery was done and I was home, understand they cut into my neck, right? They with lack of a better explanation, they took a Dremel tool and they dremeled down my 3rd and 4th vertebrae so they're more straight instead of a notch. Right. They gave us fentanyl and Percocet and all the fucking purple elephant drugs you could think of that are flying down the street. We cut all of those in half, and we took half of the script and didn't use it. So basically, if I had 20 pills of fentanyl, right? I don't remember what I had, but let's just call that as an example. We cut each pill in half and disposed of 10 of them. So I actually only had the equivalent of 10 total. And I remember the day after surgery, Jake would even attest to this. I was in so much fucking pain. I was punching the headboard because I couldn't listen to this, people. I could not take the full prescribed drug because I was afraid it would take me down the path of wanting to drink again. That's how paranoid I am with painkillers. I can't take cough medicine because it has codeine in it, because I like it too much. I had a cold one time and I got codeine layered cough medicine, and Nikki was like 3 days into it. She's like, where's your fucking cough medicine? I'm like, oh, I took it. She's like, this was a 2-week supply, but I liked it because the way it made me feel.
Yep.
So I did what any alcoholic does. I drank it out of the bottle and I polished it off in 3 days. You don't understand how hard it is to function in life when you're in pain, and you cannot take painkillers. Like, you just can't. I have my wisdom teeth because I can't get my wisdom teeth pulled out because I can't take the painkillers. Like, I was punching the headboard while in a neck brace after neck surgery, punching the headboard. I was in so much pain and it wouldn't stop. There's nothing I could do to stop the pain. Nick is like, take this, take this, take this. Like, Mike, but we knew I couldn't. So you take a round pill and cut it into fourths, and I got a quarter of it just to kind of give it a little bit of ease. We were so paranoid about what those prescribed narcotics, because that's what they are, legalized narcotics, would do to me and
Correct.
take me back down that path, that I only had maybe 3-4 days of them.
So,
and then it was to the point of where I just sucked up the pain.
So here's what fascinates me. People will take all those pills because a doctor prescribed them to them, right? Without even thinking anything about it.
Yep.
But they will have the nerve to look at me and say, I can't believe you smoke pot, man. Of all the people in the world, I can't believe that you like to smoke pot. I'm like, wait, you mean I like to be introspective and creative and I like to feel good once in a while? There's something wrong with that? And you'll suck down Percocet like they're going out of style because your back hurts. Those fucking things will kill you, just so you know.
Yep.
I refer back to, I think I said just a minute ago, marijuana has never been proven to have killed anyone ever in the history of the universe. Ever.
Nope.
The LD50 for marijuana is so high that you'll smoke yourself straight before you hit it. The LD50, for anyone that's listening, that means that means it's the amount of drug that you have to take to kill 50% of the population. That's what the LD50 is.
Right.
The LD50 for marijuana is so high.
Where I was going with it, right, and where I was going with that story, with the drugs and stuff I had from the doctor, and using the medical grade marijuana leading up to surgery, and I had stopped it, I think, a week ahead of time because he had to check of the blood levels and everything. About a week when I was up and around, still in the neck brace, about a week after surgery itself, I took everything that I had marijuana wise and flushed it down the toilet because I knew I didn't need it again. So true to your point, Mike, it's everybody lumps it in with the addictive drug, but it's not an addictive drug, because if it was, I never would have stopped. And I'm an alcoholic.
Correct.
I'm somebody who couldn't function sober on a daily basis for a good part of probably 2 years, because the rest of the time was kind of leading up to it. But then I really hit my stride and was full blown, 18 to 24 months before I stopped. So the fact that I could just literally wake up that day, 7th or 8th day afterwards, open up the wall safe that we had in the closet, take out, I had a little, he would give me a little bottle, like a I don't know, like a Tylenol bottle, and legit poured it down the toilet and flushed it and threw the one hit thing in the garbage. And that was it. There's nothing. There was no oh fuck, I need to get high today. It didn't happen.
Correct.
It served its purpose. It kept me from drinking alcohol. It kept me from going back down a path of Jack Daniels, which I would have gone. There's nothing in my being that says I wouldn't have eventually started drinking again, because the pain was so fucking bad. And if you've never lived with vertebrae in your neck grinding on each other, you have no idea what I'm talking about. And I'm glad you have no idea what I'm talking about, because
my mother does.
Yeah, you do, but on a whole,
so does my mom.
It's so fucking devastating. I was yesterday, because it's kind of back now from being in the boot for so long. I was on the treadmill at Orange Theory running, and I did something wrong. I stepped wrong. I planted wrong, but I dropped. I stopped the treadmill and I laid on the treadmill on my back. I'm like, fuck, where's this coming from? And then I went out in the lobby and I had to drop to my knee because I had such an acute, in the back of my neck pain. So I came home and hopped on my inversion table and iced my neck and took some Advil. And, by the end of the day, it was cool. But it's there and it sucks. And marijuana can save your life from a pain standpoint. Even my therapist, okay? My fucking therapist, when I was going through some shit, she wanted to, I'm not doing any prescribed, nothing. Cause I was in the woe was me with the, like I talked about, 2021, the lack of social interaction shit. I was depressed. It was struggling. So I went to therapy. I'm like, I need to figure out what the fuck is wrong, because I'm a happy person. Why am I not happy? I told Nikki I'm not happy. I don't know what the fuck it is. She wanted to prescribe me antidepressant stuff. I said, I don't want pills. I need to figure out how to get through this. And she's like, well, marijuana is a great way for an antidepressant. Really? And
Yes.
like straight up, doctors prescribe marijuana as an antidepressant. I didn't take her up on it, but doctors prescribe marijuana as an antidepressant.
Because it makes you want to be social.
Doctors. Exactly. So the people that think, right, and I don't want to get on this tangent like, oh, we're all, marijuana is not an addictive drug. That's not what this topic is about today. We're talking about sobriety in my journey, but it's if I'm a fucking alcoholic, I am an addict. I can't take painkillers. I can't take cough medicine. I can't take Dayquil and NyQuil. Okay, if I have a cold, I fucking suck it up. So for me to be able to stop taking and smoking pot after my neck surgery was done shows you right there that if an alcoholic, a full-blown fucking raging alcoholic who is going to lose everything, can stop on a dime, it's not an addictive drug. It's there to help. If it's used properly in the right way, it's there to help you function in life. Some people need to function in life with it every single day. Some people need it once a week. Some people need it when migraines pop up. Man, fucking right on. If smoking a joint's going to keep your migraine at bay, more power to you, man. If smoking a joint helps women during their PMS cycles, fucking right on, man. Amen. There's so much pain in this world that we have as humans because our bodies deteriorate. We're not vampires, unfortunately. I don't think vampires is real, because if it was, I'd be a vampire. The body breaks down. Regardless of how healthy you are and how well you eat. I am the epitome of health as told by a doctor 6 months after or a year after neck surgery, because legit, like, you're the epitome of health. You're sitting, heart rate was 42. Your blood pressure was fucking insanely great. Your body fat, like, you're the epitome of health. He's like, I was looking at your folder from 10 years ago to today. This was my regular primary care guy. And he's like, it's mind boggling. The difference in that year from once I finally had neck surgery and could get back to working out. Because that was the one thing with my neck, I couldn't work out. I couldn't run. But it blew his mind, the drastic change that I evolved. It's when I was 30, I looked like I was 50, overweight, out of shape, unhealthy at every level. And 33 years later, I can fucking run a 6-minute mile right now, 6:28. I can do a half marathon in an hour and 48 minutes. That's because you replace your addiction with something else. Anybody Correct. Can be where I'm at. Anybody can be where Mike's at, because we made the choice to do it. So all you have to do is wake up in the mirror, wake up in the morning, look at yourself in the mirror and say, today's the day I stop.
Yep.
Nobody tells you to stop. You make that choice to stop, then you can stop. That's all it is. It's free will. It's self-control. Just make the decision to stop and get some support things in place lined up for you to replace your addiction, your negative behavior with positive behavior. Find it and do it. You will thank us for it. It is the greatest thing in the world to wake up clean and sober every single day.
Absolutely.
Regardless what your life is like. You could have a blessed life or a shit life. But if you wake up with a clear mind, nothing can stop you, man. Nothing.
Well,
it's a beautiful thing.
I think it is a beautiful thing. Very well said, because I've said this before, and I'll say it 100 more times, 1,000 more times. When you're an addict, you think that you're doing something exciting. You think that your life is over the top, and, I'm doing something that's taboo, and, I'm having a good time, and people don't understand. They just don't get it, man. I'm having fun. And really what it is, when you look back on it after you get sober, is that every day is Groundhog Day. You wake up and you do the same thing day after day after day. It's almost comical, to be where you and I are right now. To look back on it, we can laugh, because that's exactly what it was, man. You can sugarcoat it however you want. You can sit across from me right now, and you can shoot your heroin, and you can do your lines of cocaine, and you can tell me how good a time you're having. And I know exactly how you feel if it's your first time. And I know exactly how you feel if it's your last time.
Yep.
So you're not going to bullshit me. My life, to Chris's point, is I wake up every day with a clear mind. He just asked this question on Facebook every day. What's your favorite way to start your day? Coffee, man. And it's a drug. Right. It's a mild, harmless drug, you know.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
But
that's another man-made drug, right? Because
it is.
Caffeine is a man-made drug. It's natural in plants and shit, but it took man to fucking figure out how to harness that shit and put it in a beverage that can be consumed on a daily basis. And I'm not that fucking, everything's taboo and shit, so don't get me wrong. But no, caffeine is a drug. There's people that have withdrawals if they don't have their coffee or their Coke or, their soda, right?
You don't think it's an accident that Starbucks is one of the most gigantic corporations on earth, right? Like people, they got everyone addicted to super strong caffeinated coffee, which luckily for me, I can't have all that foo-foo shit. And their actual coffee is horrible, so I hate it. It's bitter, tastes like shit. I make my own at home.
Yep.
But my point was going to be, I wake up every morning and I don't know what's going to happen that day. And to a person that is in the throes of addiction, if you can hear one thing I say, it's that every day is a new adventure. And I get told all the time or asked, why are you always smiling? A, because I woke up this morning and I was given a chance to be a good person. And B, because I don't know what's going to happen. Our podcast could go viral and the whole world could hear this message. And I would have missed out on that had I died, you know? So every day for me is a new adventure.
Exactly.
And it could be for you too. Yeah, you would have missed out on telling your story.
I have to pause for station identification. I have to pause. I'll be right back.
All right, man. Which is code for Chris has to go to the bathroom. It's amazing that I can actually sit here because anyone that works with me on a daily basis knows that for some reason when I'm at work, I have to go to the bathroom like 15 times a day. Probably because I drink 4 cups of coffee real fast before 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, but somehow an hour and 23 minutes or whatever it is right now, I don't have my glasses on, into this podcast, I don't have to go to the bathroom and I drank an entire beer. So I guess I win this battle. I'm guessing because I went 15 times a day at work. So anyway, once again, we will congratulate Chris on his 19 years of sobriety. And if he ever listens to this, he will hear that. Proud of you, brother. And for anybody out there that has been there or is thinking about going down the road of sobriety, it's definitely something like Chris said that you have to go into it with your eyes wide open. You have to make a conscious decision that that's what you want to do. One day in the future, I'll tell my story just like he did, but I literally woke up one day and I looked in the mirror and I weighed like 128 pounds and I knew I was going to die if I kept going down that road. So I literally said out loud, like he was talking about earlier, I want to live, I just don't want to do this anymore. And in order for me to live, I had to quit living the life that I was. So I started taking life 10 seconds at a time and 10 minutes at a time. And pretty soon that turned into, an hour, a day, a month, a year. And I'm behind him a little bit. I didn't really write down the day that it happened or the year that it happened because I just knew that at that moment I was going to change my life. So it wasn't really that important that what day it was, what month it was. It's easy for him to remember because it was the day after the Super Bowl. So that helps out a lot. I just didn't feel like that was important. I just felt like it was important that I was going to save my life at that moment in time. So I don't have the exact year, but we'll get there. And welcome back to the Chris and Mike Show. It's your co-host, Chris. I covered your ass. I talked about how I had to go to the bathroom 15 times a day at work, but somehow I can make it through this podcast. I said, anybody that knows me at work will tell you that I go to the bathroom like 15 times a day. It probably has to do with drinking 4 cups of coffee before 9 a.m., I'm guessing.
Probably. Yeah. I had my protein shake
It's
like
all
an hour
good, man.
before. So I don't know why the hell. And then I've only drank this little bit of water. So I don't know why all of a sudden I had to pee, but I had to pee like a racehorse. Like
I was giving you a
like,
hard
I
time.
almost
I'm
flooded the
like, I've
toilet. I
been
had to
through
pee
a
so
whole
bad. It's
beer and
just
everything.
insane. That's awesome.
It's all good.
So
man.
here's a fun thing. Where did it go? So I came up with a top 11 today. And
Okay.
this one, we haven't talked about it, but I figured it was cool. It's the top legendary bassist who defined rock and roll.
Right on, man. All right. I like it.
And it just just rock and roll itself. So it's not nothing else, man. Just the top 11 bassists who defined rock and roll. Some of these I've never heard of, and it surprised me who's in the top 3 because again I let the Google machine come up with this. So
It's got to be John
number
Paul
11
Jones.
because we start at John Deacon.
John Deacon.
Behind Queen's epic anthems.
Oh, yeah.
John Deacon,
Yeah.
Queen. Right? Yeah.
I'm always embarrassed to say I can't name the bass player and the drummer from Queen. John
Well,
Deacon.
I can't either. John Deacon, bass player
right.
for Queen. Number 10, never. I know the band, but I've never heard of this individual. Tina Weymouth, Talking Heads bass player.
I would have never pulled that out. No way.
Nope, me neither.
Love the Talking Heads.
Here's another one I've never heard of. Yeah, another one I've never heard of. Bootsy, Bottsy, Bootsy
Collins. Oh yeah.
Parliament Funkadelic, known
Yep.
for his flamboyant persona and infectious grooves.
How you like that, buddy? I knew that one.
Which okay. Now that's impressive, man. Now number whoops, don't pull that out, Chris. Number 8, who you mentioned a moment ago, John Paul Jones.
He should be number 1.
He was a master of both bass and keyboards, mind you. Well,
Yes.
okay, you're gonna be. That's what I'm saying. I'm surprised who number 1 is. Number 7 is Jack Bruce with Cream, which I never would have pulled that out either.
He's a good one. Yeah, I know that one.
Number 6, yeah, okay. Number 6 is James Jamerson of the Funk Brothers, pioneer Motown soul. His innovative bass lines provided the rhythmic foundation for countless his songs, earning him a place among the greatest bassists of all time.
Apparently, I need to go listen to that.
Number 5. Now, number 5, I think. Yeah, number 5, I think should be number 3. So I'm gonna switch this. Number 5 is gonna be Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers with his funky slap bass technique.
He is good though.
And he is good, but I don't think he's top 3. The one that's in 5 should be top 3, which you'll hear in a moment. Number 4 is Jaco Pastorius, the Weather Report. Never heard of this guy.
Oh yeah. All bass players know who Jaco. Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, right on. Okay.
All bass players know who Jaco
Okay.
is.
See, I've never heard of him. Okay. Number 3, because remember I flipped 5 and 3, is Geddy Lee.
Oh, okay.
Geddy Lee, the driving force behind Rush. I could. Right? What do you think about that? Like, I think Geddy Lee's better than Flea.
Yeah. Because he's
Flea
a multi-instrumentalist.
more mainstream. Flea, Chili Peppers. Correct. Well, and the Chili Peppers were big, but they weren't like I don't know. To me, Rush is better than Peppers would ever be. But that's just.
I'm not going to argue that.
But I think Geddy Lee's. I
Agreed.
think Geddy Lee's a better bass player than Flea. Number 2, Sir Paul McCartney.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
he wrote some of the greatest.
We talked about the Beatles before, right? And how
he wrote some of the greatest songs in the history of the universe.
Some of the greatest songs. Right. Well, and that and the sheer fact that a lot of what the Beatles did, and I think we talked about this, they would play like 8-hour shows. Like there's a reason that they're the Beatles. There's a reason that they're the musicians they are. There's a reason that no matter what musician you talk to, the Beatles come up.
Absolutely.
Like just across the board, I think we talked about that last week.
And just for the record, Paul McCartney
number
is
1, which
badass bass player.
Yeah.
He's not just a good songwriter. He
Oh,
is
yeah.
an amazing bass player. He knows exactly which note to pick for whatever chords the guitar player is playing at that moment in time. He is an amazing musician.
Well, and that goes back to, I think, the fact that they would play 8-hour shows.
Correct. Agree.
Like, you get to the point, we talked about it, you get to the point where you don't have to look at anybody, you know, like
Exactly.
we would, you know, as we played and the more we played on stage, the more we just knew where we were at. But if I was doing some weird improv thing vocally, you know, I could give Scott or, you know, William Richard Carr III a nod or Scott a nod so they knew. But I don't think the Beatles ever had to look at each other on stage. Just, you know, oh, John's going on that tangent now. Just let's follow along.
Exactly.
What a time that would have been when the British invasion, man. And then number one, which is surprising, and I he's very, how can I say it? When you see the image, when you see the name, I see the image of a very stoic guy on stage. You know, it wouldn't move, just very stoic, but could fucking lay down, man. John Entwistle is the number one bassist, renowned for his intricate bass lines and thunderous solos. Entwistle's innovative playing style laid the foundation for countless rock bands to come.
So I might get crucified by every actual bass player that I know for saying this, but remember, all my bass player friends, I'm just a dumb guitar player. So with that said, I'm actually going to agree with that. I think that he should probably be tied with John Paul Jones because John Paul Jones also played some intricate ass bass lines over some crazy, I mean, getting into nerd territory, but he played it over some crazy time signatures, you know, like 9/11 time and just shit that people, musicians, it scrambles your brain to think about trying to count that out, you know, at 140 beats a minute.
Right.
But go back and listen to The Who and crank the bass up on your system and really just concentrate on what John Entwistle played under all that music. And he is an amazing bass player.
Yeah.
Or you can do yourself a favor and go to YouTube and just look up John Entwistle isolated bass lines. That's always fun.
Yeah, it's just it surprised me they put him, the Google machine put him over Paul McCartney.
I think just because of I think just because of the complexity of what he was playing.
Oh, gotcha.
That's the reason.
Because the Beatles came first before the Who, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Not by much, though.
Okay, that's what I thought.
In the grand scheme of things, these bands were
same.
not that far apart. Mm-hmm. They were within 5-6 years of each other. But yeah, the Beatles came first.
Yeah, which is nothing. Yeah, I thought so. But you know how my mind works sometimes.
Yeah, you and me both.
So that's what we got. So, yeah. I was gonna drop the lyrics of Liquid Sin because it's the one song I wrote that was about the trials and tribulations of alcoholism. And all I remember was, I'm going to tell you a story that I know well about a man who's been down to hell, sat on top of Satan's throne, dipped his cup in the river below. Comes around me, same old fight. No, it comes around me, same old fight. I don't fucking remember now. But Liquid Sin.
I love that song.
I tried to Google the lyrics, even though I wrote the song, to see if it was on the Google machine. It's not. But yeah, Liquid Sin, man. That would have been if Fucknut would have not taken the lyrics out of the jacket. Those lyrics would be online. But you know, Fuckhead had to have his say, and you know,
he didn't play by the same rules as us.
Little things. That's a great. I'll have to find those. No, I'll find those lyrics. I'll put them up on our page if you don't care.
No, put whatever you want up there, man. I actually love the lyrics to that song.
Yeah, it's a good song. It took me a while to write that. And then some of it, the recording of it, the last verse was actually improv when we were working on it one day. It just
didn't you guys do a video for that?
What the fuck was it? I have to. We did. It's cheesy as hell.
Yeah, I remember seeing the video.
It was Fucknut's vision. Yeah, Yeah. What the hell? Ah, fuck. The last verse is fucking tight, but in order to get to the last verse in my head, I got to do the whole song in my head. It was one of those things I just came up with when we were. It was like 2:00, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had to find an ending for this song. And he was playing the riff, and it just came out, and I was like, oh, like as soon as it was done, I was like, oh, that's fucking it. That just wrapped the whole song up.
Yeah, that was a good one.
But after life, me, I can't pull it out of my ass right now. I can't pull it out of my ass. So, all right, boys and girls, this has been the Chris and Mike Show. If you need help, you're not alone. Reach out, talk to somebody. Google machine, whatever you need. Addicts don't have to be alone. Don't buy into that bullshit. There's always somebody who can help you and champion your cause and your desire to get clean and sober. So do that. You will thank us for it for sure.
I second that. And I will also say, on the same note, if you know someone or you yourself, I think Chris made it very clear on our Facebook page, if you would like to be a part of this show and share your own journey of sobriety or any skill that you've championed, if you're a master, whatever, and you want to be on the show, reach out, send us a message, let us know. But for surely, if you want to come on and do your testimonial for your sobriety, the more people that hear a message like him and I are putting out there, the more hope there is in the world that you can change your life. You can be a positive person. You can repair your relationships with your loved ones, your friends, your family, whoever means something to you, just yourself for first and foremost. But definitely reach out. We're here.
Yep,
and we'll talk to you, and we're not going to judge you on any level because we've either been there, done that, or seen it.
Nope.
It's one of the three.
Yep. Every way, shape, or form, man.
Exactly.
All of them.
Don't be ashamed.
Been there, done that, seen it, participate in it, enabled, didn't enable, I was fucking, sooner or later I'll have to write a book about everything that's related to addiction because I've seen all separate sides of it, right? I've seen every single angle of it.
Correct.
From my own self being addicted and then to a family member being addicted and trying to save that family member, enabling that family member, not enabling that family member, being there for the family member. It just is, you want to fucking talk about a tornado of chaos, man. That would be an epic book to write for sure. That would, could hopefully open the eyes of so many. It sucks, man. Being an addict.
That's definitely another good episode because
love nothing more than to be able to just have.
Yeah, that went on for years.
Yeah, the one thing that you non-addicts don't realize the privilege you have coming home from work and sitting out by your barbecue grill and popping a beer while you're grilling some steaks. That's something that I miss. I can do it with fake beer, which is cool now, but the first 4 or 5 years when there wasn't really the kind of like O'Doul's is not fake beer. There's a 0.05% alcohol in that, but Heineken makes one, Budweiser makes one, so it's one of those little things, man, that just gives me stupid joy. Sitting out there grilling with a beer in my hand, even though it's fake beer, but it's still just it's that Americana thing, man.
I was gonna say it makes you feel like an American.
Barbecuing. It does. It just makes you feel like a human being, It makes you feel like a normal person, just,
Well, and for anybody that knows me now, they know that I have rules. So you and I have discussed them privately, but this beer right here, this is one of 2 I get for the day, no matter if I have it at noon or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. When I drink this one, my brain says, you get one more today. So when do you want to have it? Do you want to have it with dinner, after dinner? So I just made rules for myself because I could easily go down this path the same way I went down cocaine, methamphetamine, opiates. I've been addicted to a lot of things in my life, ladies and gentlemen. And alcohol, luckily for me, I do not enjoy the high of alcohol at all. I use it as I don't know, like you said, making dinner, eating dinner, then I'm done with it. I don't like feeling drunk.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate for that. Anymore.
I never asked you this, which is shame. Yeah, I never asked you this, which is shame. I mean, when is your sober birthday?
Oh, we
When
talked
did you
about that while
stop?
you were
And
in the
sober, I
bathroom.
mean, do drugs, obviously.
It's one of the things we discussed while you were in the bathroom.
That's fitting.
I don't really know because
Right on.
I woke up one day and
Okay.
I knew that I was going to die. And I can roundly tell you it was when I was about 35 years old. But
Okay.
it wasn't
Which was what year?
important to me. 2007, 8.
Right on. So we need to
Yeah.
have a show about your journey,
Oh, we will.
because I think it's two tails of the coin, you know, because everybody's path is different, everybody's journey is different. So I think it would behoove us not to have a show that talks about your journey and your approach and how you've been successful in staying clean and sober.
We will do that for sure.
Mine was booze. You were yeah. Yours was unforgiving narcotics, and they are, meth and heroin and opioids. That shit's unforgiving. So for you to get out of from underneath that darkness and
All of it.
be here today to tell the tale, I give you more credit than you give me for the booze. I mean, again, the booze is different. It's a different animal. It's a different
It's all
journey
addiction,
for
though.
everyone, but I want to hear your story. It is. No, I 100% agree, but the level of it and the hooks, I'm not going to pretend that every form of addicted, I have fucking what I'm trying to say. They all have the hooks in you. They all have the monkeys on your back and all the demons that bring you down. It's just, it's how deeply enthralled in that addiction is how harder it is to get out from underneath it. So I would love to hear your story, because we haven't really touched on that in our lifetime of knowing one another. It just randomly spots here and there.
Yes, for the people listening at home, that
so think about
Chris
that.
and I were,
let's have that. Yeah,
we were estranged from each other during most of that time. So he was not there, just like I was not there for the bitter end of his addiction either. So yeah, we will 100%. We'll tell that story. Go down that road.
Right
That's
on.
part of the reason I want to do this podcast,
Right,
is
man.
to get all these messages out there. So
yeah, absolutely.
until next time.
Cool. You have a great day, my friend.
You too, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nothing but love,
And
man.
congratulations.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Hey,
Later.
thanks, man. You as well.
Peace.
Later. Peace.